Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our latest Lunchtime Live. I'm Rob from Zero Waste Leeds, and if you're new to our Lunchtime Lives, basically they're an opportunity for us to kind of showcase some of the good stuff that's happening in the city to help us all waste less in our daily lives. So today I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Jed Aitchison from Buy Nowt LS6, which is a new library of things in Leeds. So Jed, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
No, that's great. Good. So well, first of all, I'd just like to find out a little bit more before we get into what a library of things is. Just tell us a little bit more about the people who were involved in setting up this kind of project, how you got to where you are today in terms of setting something up.
It's taken about 4 or 5 core people, myself, someone called Sarah, Mark Lee, and a chap called John, who's sadly had to depart the group because his work commitments have taken over. But we all worked together, been working together for about a year, just under a year, and we sort of did the various parts of Central Library. So some people did web development, some people did the CIC and the bank stuff, some people did the domain name and the graphics, and obviously I did portions of it too. So it was a collaborative effort, to say the least. And yeah, we met online. So I think you, Rob, actually introduced us. So it was, I think you told Sarah about me wanting to start a library, and then the rest is history. So you are clearly an intrinsic part of the team, and without you, this never would have happened, Rob. So thank you very much.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's quite nice to know. I mean, because obviously part of what we do as Zero Waste Leeds is try to be that kind of convener and connector sometimes, and hopefully sometimes some relationships kind of form and people can go off and do stuff. So that's good to hear. So, and is this something that you've been interested in, this kind of area? You've been interested in it yourself for a while?
Yes. About 4 years. I think I read something in late 2017 in the Guardian about the library of things that started in Oxford. I think, and it just pinged something, and I loved it. And then I had a career, or whatever. I still have a career, and then work took over in university and whatever. And then I moved to Leeds, and I had a bit of time in lockdown because I was working from home and had some sort of mental space. And I thought I had a few ideas, and I just started thinking about the library of things more and more and more. And there wasn't one in Leeds, and people had tried to start one up much earlier in 2016. That was the Hyde Park Source team tried to do a crowdfunder for it. And I guess the rest is history. I started talking to you and other green groups in Leeds to help, and met these guys, and then it really started to run away in January time.
Yeah, good. Well, let's get back to basics really. For people who haven't come across the idea of a library of things, just tell us the basics of how it works.
Thank you. Well, in its simplest form, it's a library, but instead of books and stuff, it's for the kind of things that you use infrequently but would otherwise have to buy. So things we wouldn't have in a library would be like a TV or a microwave, because they're just used too often. It would defeat the purpose of having them rented. The beautiful thing that we can lend people is the stuff they use not often and are just stored in an attic, shelf, or cupboard. So a classic one we cite is a power drill. A power drill gets used for about 13 minutes in its lifetime, and that could be a decade, and it gets used on average about 13 minutes in that entire time. So that's the key thing that we lend at a library, is we lend the kind of stuff you use infrequently but would otherwise buy. And the classic examples: power tools, normal hand tools, garden equipment, camping equipment, holiday stuff, specialist gardening equipment, cooking equipment, board games and games to a lesser extent, costumes. And yeah, that's the stuff in the library. I can go into a bit more detail. Some of the
that's I mean, we can get into more kind of more detail, but I suppose it's part of this often it's referred to as the sharing economy, isn't it? This idea of there may be things that we need access to, but we don't necessarily need to own them. I think that's you very much sit as part of that, I think, don't you?
Precisely. Yeah, sharing economy.
Yeah, no, that's good. And in terms of the kind of practicalities of these things that you might have, so as you say, maybe kind of camping equipment or tools or whatever. How have you acquired? I'm assuming you've got this library of things now. How have you gone about acquiring these things in the first place?
Yes, the library is quite full. We've got 553 items as of sort of today.
Wow.
In stock, which is pretty. I mean, some libraries only have 200-300, and some have about the same as us after years and years and years. So we've been incredibly successful in getting this stuff. And and where we got the stuff from is mainly about 90-80% of it has come from donations from the community. A small portion has been lent to us, or we've acquired it from Leeds Festival, because we went to the Clear Up at Leeds Festival, a group of us, and we collected several £100s worth of stuff in 2 hours, and that's part of the library. So most of it donation, because there's, if we're talking about things used infrequently, people have this stuff in their home already, and they don't want it to take up space, so they're downsizing or whatever, and they're looking to get rid of it, and they want to give it to a good use. And so that's why people have been so forthcoming about donating to us, and they recognize it's a worthwhile thing to do, I guess.
That's really good to hear. And I think that, as you say, I think I can relate to that myself, in terms of you do tend to acquire stuff over your lifetime, don't you? And it's kind of, I can totally understand why there were people who were quite happy to donate. And as you say, the beauty of it is that it's then there for them to borrow again if they need it, isn't it? So it is something that, when it works well, can be kind of best of both kind of worlds. And have you got premises yourself at the moment? I suppose that this stuff is obviously stored somewhere or something. Have you got a base somewhere yourselves at the moment?
Yeah, we've got a really, I think, almost a perfect location at the Headingley Methodist Church, which is in it's in central Headingley, and it's on the corner of Otley Road and North Street, right by the head of steam and stuff like that. So it's a really, really good location, great size, about 50 square meters. So we've got all of our stuff in there. It's got sinks, it's got really good access to the street and relatively good parking, especially for Headingley. So it's oh,
that's good.
It's a really, we're very happy with the location. The church has been very good to us.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Because practicality, in terms of practicalities, having somewhere to store and then for people to access it is important. So I mean, if we go on to practicalities next, so if I'm interested and I want to get involved, is it on a membership basis? How do I access something that I might want to borrow?
Pretty straightforward. So you'd go to our website, and I think you've happily linked some of it in the chat. And if people are unsure, they can also just go to our Facebook page and they'll get redirected that way. They make a membership, which is probably a less than a 5-minute process. And then once they have a membership, they elect what kind of membership they like, be it pay as you feel. So they make donations as and when they borrow, or they can, if they want, make a monthly donation to the use of the library. And then that gives them access, and they can, make reservations, and then, or just come in, and then they pick it up, borrow it, and bring it back in increments of weeks. We tend to do lending for a week, but we can do longer if people want. And so that's it, really. It's like any other library, it is an elegant system, and we've had, and we use a system called My Turn, so that we've not made something bespoke. There's 10 other libraries, and we just use the same software they do. So it was, it works pretty well.
No, that's good. And I mean, just the point you make there about there being other libraries, is there quite a network of libraries of things across the country that you've been able to tap into for support and ideas in terms of setting one up here?
Yes, there's lots of them, and there are networks, but there's nothing really super formalized yet, which is not good, but it's not bad. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a very new sector, isn't it?
And I suppose mostly run by volunteers as well, I assume.
Yeah, some have a few sort of paid staff and stuff, but there are some volunteers. But they gave us the libraries and things I did contact, and I probably made contact with probably all of them, actually. They all gave me in some way some help, be that a resource, or be that some information, or a PDF, or a manual, or
sometimes those practicalities are useful, aren't they, just when you're getting up, as you say, particularly if you are volunteering your time on it yourself. So are you actually up and running yet? Have you got people who are members and who have got stuff that's out there being borrowed at the moment, or are you just about to launch?
No, we've been open for nearly 2 months. Our first day open was the 8th of October, and so we've had 7 weekends of being open, and we've lent 190. No, we've got 195 members as of this morning. We've done around 120 loans. And by my estimates, this is a coarse estimate, I reckon we've saved in these 7 weeks about 2.5 tons of CO2 by people not buying, and we've saved about £2,500, or people have saved about £2,500 by using us.
Oh, that's good. And have there been, what have been the most popular things so far? Has there been a range of things, or have they been quite popular?
There's not a lot of camping stuff taken, because no one's going camping. But the main thing we do have at the moment is people really love the carpet cleaner and the wallpaper steamers and some of the simple power tool stuff and simple hand tools and ladders, and a bit of the gardening stuff has gone out, especially the leaf blowers and stuff like that because of the nature of the time of year. And a few stuff, the cooking stuff's quite popular. We've not had much gardening or not had much holiday or camping or painting stuff yet.
Yeah, but, so there'll be a natural seasonality to it as well.
Precisely. And that's one of the exciting things, is we can kind of advocate for things at different times of the year, so we can coincide with the seasonal demands and tell people how we can help them at that time of year. So throughout the year, and it's just a beautiful system.
No, sounds good. And I mean, you mentioned there about the kind of environmental impacts. I mean, I suppose this is one where it is about reducing consumption, isn't it? The kind of reducing demand for all these things that, as you say, the drill being the classic example, all that energy and everything that goes into making that product, and then it sits there most of the time not doing anything. So there's an efficiency to what you're doing, I suppose, isn't there? And things being bought.
Yes, and you save a lot of obviously the single-use packaging. You save a lot of the huge transport, say from the manufacturing center in China to overseas, is a non-trivial amount of CO2 as well. And you also a huge factor that I love about it too is simply saving money. There's no shame in saying that we save money as well, and we also save in space. Because if you had we have 50 square meters relatively well packed, but that's 50 square meters saved from people's homes. And so it obviously, with housing being a premium, you obviously save that, which is a real boon too. And the other tangential benefit, which doesn't get spoken about as much, is if you make things cheaper to do, you lower the barrier to entry into that. So what I mean by that is what's to stop someone borrowing something from us and then using it to start up a business or do something? We're making it easier for people to live their lives, I think, without sounding too bold. And that if everything's easier, it becomes easier to start a business, easier to insulate your home, easier to go camping, easier to do X, Y, Z. And it's just, and all these knock-on effects might become really exciting. We could get entrepreneurs who's used our stuff, or a small business could use our stuff when they're first starting out because they can't afford every single part of it. And then it makes it easier to start businesses. So that's me as another benefit.
I think that's a really interesting benefit. I mean, do you think, is there a benefit too about people? Do you think people quite like being connected to each other and members of something local that is quite positive and practical in their community? Do you think there is that sense of actually just a nice practical thing to do that people like as well?
I couldn't tell you an answer. I don't know. I mean, what I would say is we've had a huge amount of interest in people volunteering with us, and people really like the idea.
If you've got 200 members already, I think that's pretty good after a couple of months. So I suppose what I'm getting at is that I think, and particularly after COP26 and things, I think we often feel quite powerless, don't we? Do you know what I mean? And the world isn't going to be saved by a couple of a few of us kind of borrowing each other's power drill. However, it's a step in the right direction. And I think it also gives us that sense that actually there are things we can do as local communities that, make a difference. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that kind of local community action is really important. So I can definitely say, I can see the other benefits you mentioned as well, but also I think it's that kind of being part of something locally, I think is an important thing when we feel kind of powerless. Can I ask, it might sound like a slightly daft question, but I'm sure other people will be thinking it as well. I mean, what if things go wrong? What if I break the lawnmower or whatever? Do we have processes in place?
I mean, we've not had anything broken by a customer yet. We do have a system in place. So we have some pretty robust agreements in that we've got a public liability waiver, we've got public liability insurance, we've got signed borrowing and lending agreements when people use stuff, and so if someone breaks something, if it's in good spirits or an accident, then we'd probably just ask them to maybe reimburse us or to get a replacement. But obviously, if people take the mick, be it not returning on time or not returning it full stop, then we have recourse to obviously do things about that. But so far, everyone's, people are sometimes delayed. People have forgotten to bring stuff back, and we're pretty laid back about that. So We've got systems in place for it. Basically, if you break it, you buy it, for lack of a better word, or find us an equivalent replacement.
Yeah. But again, I think one of the positive things of this is that the likelihood of those things happening is quite low, and it's one of those. It's one of those. I mean, they often talk about being asset based, don't they? Kind of about thinking, actually, let's think that most people will do the right thing, and then if something does go wrong, we work out a way to deal with it, rather than starting from a perspective of how could we possibly share things, because clearly people are going to run away with things. And you know what I mean? I think, again, I feel that's another positive of this kind of approach, that it is about saying, actually, we trust people, but sometimes things will go wrong, and then we'll deal with it, rather than just assuming that we couldn't possibly trust people with being able to take stuff.
And,
so I think,
and there's 10 other ones in the UK, and they've told me that it's not a big deal. And when they make a membership, libraries get their things returned to them, and we take people's address and their contact details and stuff like that. So there's trust, but there's also a backbone of security, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. No, good. And I mean, as I say, I really like the idea, and it sounds, if you've got 200 members after just a couple of months, it feels like something that has got real potential to grow. I mean, do you see? Have you got any thoughts in terms of the future for this? Is it basically about just hopefully more members, more shares?
Yeah, without a doubt, this one will grow. And we've got a pretty robust model. So obviously it's a combination of members and their respective donations and grants and grant applications, like the other libraries do. But I don't know how many. What would excite me is I don't know how many libraries a city could hold. I don't know what radius of people you can justify a library, or a population density you require to have a library if things work. But I certainly see other ones being created in the city, because it would be silly to have to drive 10 miles, or it'd be silly to drive from Hunslet to LS6 to borrow a screwdriver, or even more expensive stuff. So, and there's the demand, there's I suspect the capacity for more donations and more volunteers and more systems in place. So I love it. I think that every city could probably have a few. I mean, there's 3 in London, and they're probably working a 4th, and they're popping up in cities all over the place. And if you've got one underneath your belt, the next one becomes easier. As you probably recognize with projects, one is hard, the second one becomes easier. So I'd love it for there to be more.
No, good. And I mean, I think that's an interesting point that you make, in that, and it sounds like it's something that you're keen to just see how it evolves. But I suppose the geography does matter, doesn't it? I think one thing we've talked about a lot with our school uniform exchange projects, for example, is that we think one reason that's worked well is that most of the exchanges are very local. So you have to make the process of swapping, or giving away or accessing a uniform as easy or easier than going to Asda or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I think similarly with this, as you say, if I did have to, drive 15 miles across town to borrow a leaf blower or something, or whatever it might be, I might be less likely to do that than if there's one just 2 miles, or kind of walking distance from home or whatever. So it'll be interesting. I think that, it'll be interesting to see how that evolves over time, won't it? That, and again, hopefully, this is something that, like you've done, a group of you in Leeds 6, the great thing about this and across the country is that there are people coming together to say, we'd like to set something up like this. And it'll be interesting to see how it does develop across
on the topic of broadening. I don't know if you saw this, but Scotland obviously just introduced a £300 pot of funding specifically for libraries of things and repair cafes across Scotland. And it would be, and it was pretty amazing of them. And the first libraries were in Scotland. The very first library things in the UK was in Glasgow, and I think the second was in Edinburgh. So the Scots are just get a bit more ahead of us for whatever reason. But it would be really nice to see, a scheme like that done across West Yorkshire or across Leeds or across England. I don't know who to whom I should ask about it, but I think it'd be a great thing. They do make money. They should be able to sustain themselves. They can receive grants. They can, and I can't not see it working, because you made that blog post saying if someone came up with a book library today, you'd think it was a ridiculous thing. But we're just at that stage with stuff. And I think that in a few years' time, it'll just think, oh, it's normal to borrow instead of buy. We're also about changing people's mindset. And so we want to make it easier to borrow instead of buy, and make people's first thought think, where can I borrow this instead of buy it? That should be people's first thought, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, you save money, space, and carbon. It's a real no-brainer to me as to why we're not.
Absolutely. And as you say, I think there's a bigger picture stuff there, isn't there, around. I mean, for a good few years, we didn't own a car as a family, and there was just that there was, as you said, the financial aspect of that was one of the things to consider. That for the amount that we used the car, we looked at it and thought, actually, we can save money by just hiring a car when we need one. Do you know what I mean? And that had environmental impacts as well, but it was a financial thing. And as you say, I think this kind of, borrowing and sharing stuff, particularly when it's done on a kind of mutual level, I think has got a lot of potential to look at other kind of the things in the future. So just to start rounding up, really, just to remind people about how they could get involved. So if someone's watching this and they'd like to know more about your library of things, just remind them what to remind them to do.
So we've got the three, we have the three socials. So we've got a Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and please follow us on your preferred medium. We've got a website which goes into a bit more detail about what we do. We've got, just go through our socials and you'll see the kind of stuff we've got. And then make an account, I guess. So then you can see what we have, and we've got a pretty slick way of searching for things in categories. You can find what you're after relatively easily, and then borrow, basically. Please make a reservation, make an account, come in and borrow, or just come in and have a look around. Be inspired by when you come in. Maybe you can't do a project because you didn't have the time or the resources, but now you think, oh, I'll borrow one instead and give it a go. We also have always looking for other volunteers. So if you want to get involved and help out with the community, then please do. We're always looking for more help and more specialism, especially with the sort of accounting and business and librarian stuff are the main ones we're looking for. And then that's it, I guess, and just spread the good word. Tell people about us. We're obviously quite new. We're growing relatively well, but I just want more people to use it. Basically, I want to, why wouldn't I want to help more people? So please do spread the good word. Tell as many people as you can.
Good. Well, no, that's good. I mean, we've got everything. All the links and things are in the comments, and we're really interested to hear from other people who've used the library as well, because I think it is such a great idea, and be keen to see what people are getting kind of from it. So Jed, can I say thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Do keep in touch with us and let us know how you get on. Obviously, we're really keen to see more of this happen. And thank you to everybody who's watching. If you've got any kind of questions that we haven't kind of answered during the chat, please do stick them in the chat, and either myself or Jed can answer them. But again, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Rob.
Yeah, no, pleasure. Thanks, Jed. All right, bye everybody.
Bye.
See ya.